Hey, what's up everybody? It's Spencer. Welcome back to my shop. If this is your first time stopping by, I appreciate it. And if you've been stopping by and watching all of my videos, thank you very much. I appreciate all the support. Today we're going to be taking a look at my Z50R project. If you've seen the first video, you kind of know that I was working on the front end. I've got it completely mounted except for the front wheel and the handlebars, but you know, it's on there and everything functions as it should. But I need to replace my stock steering stop because it stopped on the back of the steering head, while this one, the XR80 triple clamps with the CRF70 forks, stops on the front. So I need to make a new steering stop. And then I also had to bend back my rear shock mounts that are mounted on the frame. They were kind of bent up. That comes from people jumping the crap out of these things on the stock shocks, which are not meant for that. They're terrible shocks. So they were bent pretty bad. I straightened them out, but now I want to brace those shock mounts to hopefully keep this from happening again. There it is after I mounted a fresh front tire. I don't have the brake shoes and the brake hub yet, but for what I'm doing right now, it doesn't really matter. As you can tell, this tank's not in the best shape. There's some paint chipping and it's got a slight dent right there. My buddy Daniel just sent it to me so I'd have a tank for mock-up purposes. I'm gonna build an aluminum tank for this anyways. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mount up all the plastics because like I mentioned earlier, I wanna make a brace for the rear shock mounts here. You can tell where I had to heat them up with an oxyacetylene torch to straighten them back. I don't really trust them to stay that way. I'm afraid the steel's a little bit fatigued. They were pretty badly bent. So I'm gonna make a little brace, hopefully that just bridges across the top. And so I gotta have all the plastics on there to be able to fit that up. Now that I have the rear fender mounted and the seat that I'm definitely not going to use because it's got some chunks missing out of the foam and everything, I'll order a new one later on down the road. This is good enough for fit up purposes. But now that I have the rear fender mounted up with the rear grab bar that I had to modify kind of heavily, it was an aftermarket one. I had to slot all the holes and stuff just to get it to fit. You can see the shock mounts there where I had to straighten them out. What I'm thinking is I will make a bridge that goes from the top here in front of this lump in the seat that comes down right up against the frame. So it'll be in between this mount and the seat, and then branches all the way over and links to the other side. And I'm planning to cut it out on my plasma table, but I'll draw one out of cardboard first and then draw it up on the computer and cut it out on my plasma table. Very simple shock mount brace. Cut it out of thin cardboard and then wrote my dimensions down. I just used a 6-inch scale for all of this. It's really nothing critical. And I'm gonna cut it out of 1/8 thick cold roll steel. So I drew it up on Fusion 360 real fast and wrote a quick program to cut it out on my Crossfire CNC plasma table. If you don't have a plasma table and you want to do something like this, got an angle grinder or a vertical bandsaw, you can accomplish the same thing basically. This just makes it really easy on me, and I know it's going to come out exactly how I drew it, so that's why I choose to do it this way, and I don't make a huge mess while I'm doing it. Just let the machine do the work. I'll get it all cleaned up and then we'll be ready to weld it on there. I've got my shock mount brace all prepped and ready to weld. What I'm gonna do is put the seat back on pretty loosely and just check my clearances here, and I'll tack it in place, and I'll I'm gonna tack it at facing the front of the bike to where I can actually bend it back a little bit for clearance of the seat. The seat basically comes all the way to where the bracket is going to be, so I want to be able to kind of twist it around and keep checking my fitment before I weld it completely solid. Now that I have it tacked in place right there in the center, I can kind of bend it around and get it perfectly on center line with the shock mounts. It's pretty close as it is, but I'm pretty picky about this kind of stuff. So I'll slide the seat back on and make sure it clears. And if it does, I'll tack it in a couple more places, and then I'll take this rear hoop off. So it does clear like that. So that's a pretty good position. I may rock it back just a little bit to be on the safe side, since this isn't the seat that I'm going to be using. I'd like to give a little bit more room for discrepancies between these aftermarket seats, because I'm not 100% convinced that they're going to be identical. I'm sure they're not. So we'll tack it in a couple more places and then call that good until I'm ready to finish welding it completely. Got the Z50 set up on the bench. Same basic thing as I did with the rear shock mount brace. I just drew something up real simple on the computer and cut it out on my plasma table. One thing that I did do, as you can see right there in the center, there is a little inscribed mark for my center line. I also put one of those on the steering head as well, just to locate it on center. So now I'll take the front end off and tack it on there, and then just double check that my triple clamps don't hit the tank anymore like they are right now, and then we should be good to go, and I'll finish welding it all. Now that the steering stop has been tacked on, you might have saw in that time lapse, I tapped it straight with just a big piece of brass, just so I didn't ding it up, but make sure it was aligned correctly. That's why I tend to tack stuff like this, like in the dead center, and then I can kind of tap it around up and down, get it to be completely straight. Now that that's over with, I can take the front end back off again, since I have verified that the top triple clamps don't hit the tank. I've got plenty of room for my handlebars. I checked with those as well. Now I can take the tank off and the front end off and weld the upper shock mount brace back on, and I will tap out the lower steering head bearing race so I don't screw it up by getting the steering head super hot. I'll tap it out of there and then finish welding this steering stop, and then we're good to go. Well, guys, I figured that'll about do it for this go around. I hope y'all enjoyed watching it. If there's anything that you guys saw that I did and I didn't really explain it and you'd like to know more, please let me know. I'll be glad to do whatever you guys really want to see. I think on the next video, I'm going to be working on trying to get the rear end basically put together. I might not get the shocks built, but I'm not sure if I'm going to modify the stock swing arm or make my own. So that's what I got to figure out before I go too much further. I need to get a rolling chassis together, and then everything else will start falling together. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for stopping by. I'll catch you next time.